Welcome to my voice is wrong. Let's do this again. Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only global podcast purely focused on cycling style, aesthetics, lifestyle, and culture. We are back. I am your host, Alex, and I am joined by my two esteemed co-hosts, Warren and Tony. Gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. How are you both doing?
I'm doing well, but I also had some problems today. I've taken a little bit of time off the bike. It's winter here in Canada, but the trainer, I was hitting the weights, trying to get Crip Bro swole, right? Because that's the trend for 2023 coming up. Mm-hmm. We're all going to be Crip Bro. But I finally decided to step back on the trainer today, just have a light, kind of easy workout, ease myself back in. And my tax flux, I think it's the S or the 2 or something, would not connect to Wahoo's system. Or it would connect, but the power wasn't going through. I was having issue with it reading the power. And so I thought, okay, maybe Wahoo's system's off. So I closed it. I tried it again. Then I thought, okay, there's something wrong with this. Then I downloaded Zwift because you get that 25K free. Was connecting, but wasn't showing the power. I went to the tax app, wasn't connecting, not doing power. I updated the firmware, tried to calibrate, just nothing was working. I was getting so frustrated. I thought, is this just a 80-pound piece of junk? Who knows? I was like, oh my God, I'll email them. I'm looking at forums or whatever. And then I finally figured it out. And do you guys know how I solved the problem?
How? Tell us.
I unplugged it and plugged it back in. And then it just started working perfectly.
And these trainers are so heavy that you have to be Crit Bro Jack to move them around as well.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is how you got Crit Bro Jack. Warren, how you doing on the Crit Bro Jack to journey? Because I'm pretty jacked right now, not to brag. What about you, Warren?
I'm definitely more jacked than I was before I started system. I don't there's still part of me that feels like I should be lifting more, doing heavy lifting. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a big fan of system, but with the plan I'm on, there's quite a lot of riding, and I'm finding maybe there's almost too much emphasis on improving my cycling abilities and not enough on getting jacked. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling more fit. Yeah, I feel like I could be more jacked.
Do you think that's a business opportunity for us, like a specific cyclist gym? So the bikes in there, or either there's some open trainers or the bikes are real road bikes. You're not dealing with the gym awful spin bikes or, kind of recumbent sitting down. And then it's sort of like the trainers are helping you focus just on being Crip Bro jacked. There's not a lot, you can still do your bike stuff. You can bring in, there's some TVs, you can hook up your Wahoo system or your Zwift or whatever. But when you hit the kind of weight section of our cyclist specific gym, you kind of have trainers floating around. And because the Crip Bro jack, you still can't get too massive, right? So you need to really find that line of a little bit bulkier sort of, shoulders, having a little more bicep, but you're not looking like someone on Tren or Gear or something. You're looking just to get a little bit sort of bulkier and bigger. And so maybe we need a cyclist sort of, because you really wouldn't want to get you could go to a regular gym, but cyclists like cyclist specific things.
I think Tony's right. There probably is a business opportunity there to start a gym for cyclists that's halfway between a spin studio and an actual gym, because as Tony says, cyclists love having things just to themselves. And yeah, I could definitely see people wasting money on that. So let's do it.
So Crit Bro Jacked, it's the look of 2023, thick boy look. I'm also, Tony, I got to be honest, I'm also getting a bit disillusioned with indoor training at this time of the year. This is when mid-Feb, I've already had enough. I'm ready to go outside at this point. So the Crit Bro Jacked journey is helpful in diversifying outside of the trainer.
See, that's why I've done the opposite, right? I haven't ridden my bike probably since early December, trainer or otherwise. And so now I'm a little more ramped up to get back on it. But I just want to give a shout out to a Toronto local Instagram, I believe is Dialed Health. And he's a cyclist. He's definitely Crip Bro jacked, and his Instagram sort of is geared to weightlifting towards cyclists, so he can help you get Crypto Jacked. So I'm giving him a free plug. I don't know him personally, but I follow him on Instagram, Dialed Health. You're looking to join the journey of Crypto Jacked, but you still want to kind of be cycling focused. I think he's a good follow.
He's definitely, he makes me feel bad about my body, but in a way of like the Crypto Jacked of just like, man, I could be, if I just trained properly a little bit, I could be way more Crypto Jacked than I am right now.
Yeah, he does do a lot of his videos with his shirt off.
If I looked like him, I probably would too.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be adding another layer of body dysmorphia to me. It's like, you know, I used to think I wasn't skinny enough. Now I think I'm not like chiseled enough.
Crypto
like
Jacked
Dialed
enough.
Health. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm back on the bike. Excited to sort of get training for the spring.
And for extra motivation, we're just ahead of the start of the UCI World Tour 2023. I mean, to be honest, we had the tour down under in January, but no one cares. Who's excited for the UAE tour in late Feb?
You didn't watch the tour of Oman, Alex?
Oh, no, I didn't. All these races, I canceled them. To me, the UCI World Tour, it starts with the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. That's when it officially starts, February 25th. Anything before that, I'm not interested. So, you know, UCI World Tour goes from Omloop Het Nieuwsblad to Il Lombardia. Tour of Guangxi in China, don't care. China Glory, probably going to put on a show there, but don't care about that. To me, it's anything between Omloop and Lombardia in October. Anyway, I'm pumped. I'm excited.
I'd cancel my GCN Plus membership this year.
Whoa.
You going to reactivate it?
No, like I just canceled it recently. I think it was like supposed to come up in February, and I just felt myself like not watching it. They don't have really any of the good races. Like they don't have the Tour, they don't have Paris-Roubaix. I know there's the workaround, but the problem with that is that I like to cast from my like phone or whatever to my TV to watch. And the VPN, it like causes something that the Chromecast doesn't read, that you're on your proper Wi-Fi. And then I've got to do this like workaround where I like cast my whole desktop and stuff like that. And I just want it to be simple. Like I just wish, I don't know, like Flow Bikes unfortunately cost you.
Cable.
Yeah, no, but there's not. I mean, I could come to my parents live very close to me, and I could come to their house to watch a lot of this stuff. But it's not on cable in Canada. It's not played on TSN or Sportsnet or anything. So like, and then Flow Bikes cost like what, $12,000 a year or something. And so it's like, why can't we just have someone that gets all the good races for like a reasonable kind of like $9.99, like Netflix price a month type thing, right? Like, what is Flow Bikes? Like $300 a year?
I don't know what it is now.
It's like it's got to be like
30. It was $150 last I looked, but that was a while ago. It's inflation and everything. I'm sure
I guess
it's gone
that's not
up.
too bad. That comes to whatever, like.
But you pay it in a chunk, right? Like they advertise it. We've talked about this before. They advertise it as a monthly price, but you pay it at once. I think GCN Plus will eventually have everything. They're probably just waiting. I don't know why Flow Bikes keeps getting the tour in Canada. Whoever's making that deal is a fucking moron. I mean, maybe GCN wants too much. I don't know. It's just like they can't have great viewership numbers.
But like Paris-Roubaix was always like not my start of the season, you're right, like there's Omloop and stuff, but like when I came into cycling, it was the first race I knew about that wasn't the Tour, and I always get very excited for it, and it's the one like I'll really want to watch like the long hours with, and it has a very like special place in my heart in terms of like how I sort of came to understand it and watching the Hell of the North documentary early on in my cycling endeavors. And the fact that I can't get it on GCN and I gotta do the VPN and all this stuff and it's on Flow, like it just pisses me off because it's like I just like, why can't like GCN it's supposed to be, they're the global cycling network, but they just seem to be lacking. They're lacking Paris-Roubaix and the Tour, like the two things I want to watch the most.
I don't know. I just use a VPN. If a race that I want to watch doesn't show up, I just throw on the VPN and it's there.
You know that the overlords of GCN are listening to this and they're going to cancel your membership.
I mean, there's no way they don't know people are doing that. Like the sheer number of people who are doing that, you know?
And I mean, I'm sure they're probably like they're not choosing not to, show these things in Canada. Like this is deals because of Flow Bikes and other rights deals and stuff. So like they're probably more excited that you're using a VPN because then you're not going to a competitor. And I mean, is there anyone out there who pays for GCN and Flow Bikes?
Not that I know of.
I've never met someone who does both. Like that's.
I mean, I did until not long ago, but I canceled Flow Bikes and I invested in a $2 a month Kazakhstani VPN, and there you go. Okay, for our first segment today, we have a pretty regular episode today. We'll go through a roundup of news, drop takes on some of the new releases from the world of cycling fashion. But the first item that comes to us that we are going to opine on today was sent to us by, I should say, various listeners. This wasn't only one listener, there were a few of them that asked for an emergency episode on something that was done by EF Pro Cycling. So we've already reviewed the EF Pro Cycling kit, I'm going to say 2 or 3 episodes ago when we did our 2023 roundup of the pro kits from this year. But one thing that came up in the EF Pro Cycling kit, which we hadn't actually picked up on when we did our kit review, is this notion that they have on their socks. So essentially, they're wearing white shoes. They're CD shoes, which I'm a big fan of, but their socks are pink. Now, so far, so good. Pink socks, white shoes, great look. But what's special about the EF kit this year is that both socks are not fully matched. So there are 2 different shades of pink. One is, I would say, a little more on the Giro pink side. The other one is a little more on the fluorescent pink. They have 2 colors, and EF asked the cycling community which side should the bright pink go on, left or right. Many of our riders have their own opinions, but more races we attend, the more confused everybody gets. So this is EF being really clever. They're being different. They're trying something new, 2 different shades for socks, and our listeners want us to opine on this. So what do we think about that?
If it were me, I'd probably just take 2 pairs of socks and have it so I have matching colors, but different colors on different race days. Because, like, I get they're trying to be unique. It just kind of feels a little extra. I don't really feel like it's adding a whole lot to me. But in terms of what should go on what, light left, bright right, like they say on Instagram, sure, I'll buy that.
Warren is completely wrong on this. He's never been more wrong. This is a great idea because, and I've spoken about this before, the holistic nature, especially of pro kits that tie it all. Like, I wish they would tie it into the shoes, right? I mean, white shoes are always amazing. We love white shoes, but I mean, I wish they would almost do pink shoes or something. And so they have that 2-tone multiple pink on the jersey. You bring it down to the socks. It ties it all together. It's very cohesive in its sort of chaos and disjointedness because of what's going on in the jersey. Like, if the jersey was one pink and you did that, then yeah, it looks like you grabbed 2 socks, but it all sort of works together. I think it would be amazing actually if they did 2-tone pink shoes and then you wore the opposite shoe to the sock, if you know what I mean, like the light and the darker pink on one side and the light shoe and the dark. I think that would be even better. I want to bring it all together. In terms of which side, I agree. What did you say, Warren? Light on left and
bright on right. That's what they said
right.
on their
like,
Instagram.
Yeah, it's got a little sort of mnemonic device. It's plain. Like, I don't think that really matters. Now the question is, regardless of which side they choose, should all riders make sure, like in the team in that particular race, make sure that they're following the same as the other riders? Like, if you're going to do light left, bright right, then everyone has to do that.
Yeah. In the same race? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't really care about the right left distinction. I think that's a red herring. I think they're messing with our minds, and I'm going to opt out of that narrative. I'm going to opt out of that debate. There's one thing Tony said I think is very clever. Congratulations, Tony. I do think EF should have gone for pink shoes here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to go for this complicated pink sock setup, why not go for pink shoes as well? And the fact that they are CDs as well, I have a very special place in my heart for CD shoes because they've always been kind of the impossible dream for me. Love the brand. It's super Euro. I associate it with like 1990s Euro cycling, which I love. The problem though is that they are so damn narrow. Like
Oh my
CDs,
God.
they make shoes for the narrowest of feet. It is so, and I have extremely wide feet. So for me, CDs have always kind of been the impossible dream for me. I've always wanted a pair, never was able to have one because they're too narrow. But if you look at the archive of CD shoes that they made over the years, I believe it was in 2016 they made the model's called the Wire Carbon Vernice shoe, and they say the color is fuchsia, but it's actually more on the pink side. I would say they were kind of a glossy shoe, double dial, white in the back, pink in the front, glossy, just the most kind of Euro CD shoe you could have had. Now, I don't know that this would fit with the EF aesthetic, because EF is, I think they're a deeply American team in their aesthetic. So this level of Euro-ness, I'm not sure would work for them. But to me, that would be kind of my dream shoe. And I think I wish EF had gone pink for the shoes there. As far as the socks, I don't really care. I just find they're trying a little bit too hard with the unmatched socks or
Yeah.
the two colors. I just find when people are trying a bit too hard like that, it ends up having the opposite effect, and it ends up looking like they just want to look clever. And I think that's a bit of a miss personally, but yeah.
I think Tony sort of said this actually. I think what would have been better, because I agree on the pink shoes, is you have pink shoes that are one shade, and then the socks are purposefully a different shade. I think that would look cool rather than the two color shoes, two color socks that Tony sort of proposed. And also, I don't do all of their riders wear city shoes, or do some of them have like their own personal shoe deals? Because like I know some teams,
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, because I've seen a photo of the team where they're all wearing white shoes, but I only see one rider who has the CD shoes. So that's
like I think
actually a good question.
Lachlan Morton tends to do Rapha shoes, and I think Alex Howes, who's no longer on the team, he was on Northwave last year. So I don't really know how that all works. Like I'm pretty sure the Trek team is all in Bontrager shoes. I agree with your city takes. That's fine. I would love to be able to try them too, but I also have weird feet, as we've talked about.
Do Europeans just have narrower feet? Like, do
Yes.
Italians have narrow feet?
They must be. Like, I have normal feet, like not particularly wide, and even I've tried them on and I'm like, these things are painful. Like it's particularly narrow. Like it's not just like, oh, you guys have these wide feet, you'd never be able to do it. Like I could probably pull it off. Like I'm not freaks like you guys, but I've tried them on and they're still not really for a normal North American foot. They're for tiny Northern Italians. If you're from Milan and like you have some sort of that tiny Northern Italian body, I guess you can do it. Although
either way, I mean, EF has created yet another talking point for us. So kudos to them for giving us more content. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're talking about them, and that's what they want. That's what they want. Yeah. Okay. Next item. So this is I guess this is the big one of the last few weeks in terms of things that have dropped on the cycling fashion market. I think it was probably the biggest release in a little while, and it is the Rapha Braindead collaboration, which I believe came out at the beginning of February. So, okay, I admit I had to do a little bit of research into this because this is outside of my world. What is going on here? So, this is a heavily mountain bike trail riding drop, and the collaboration with Braindead. Braindead is not a brand that I knew of. They describe themselves as a creative collective of artists and designers from around the world. They employ a disruptive graphic-led approach. They take their cues from post-punk, underground comics, skateboarding, and the spirit of subculture as a whole. There's a video in which they sort of describe mountain bike as an inherently rebellious thing where you seek to upend the rules, the established order, to seek freedom, etc. And essentially, yeah, they released some trail riding kit, but they also released some more casual apparel, which has, as the Braindead description suggested, several graphics elements. It's got the Braindead logo, which is kind of I guess, the shape of a head, and very colorful stuff. It's got the Rapha armband on one of the sleeves, and I believe that Italian Alex copped the whole collection of casual apparel. He's not a mountain bike guy, which I respect him for, but I believe that as soon as this thing dropped, he was there smashing the add to cart button on the Rapha website. So yeah, that was a lot of people talked about this. What did you guys think about this Rapha Braindead collab?
I'm going to say a few things about this, and they're all going to be negative. First off, that statement you read, that marketing statement, sounds like it was written by some boomer in an office somewhere, not by cool hip skateboard types.
Somebody like me wrote it. Like
yeah, it was not someone. It does not seem authentic. I'd have to look into actually like who these people are.
Look, I'm just a messenger. I read straight from the
No,
website.
I know.
I had
I'm saying
no idea who they were.
Those, like, the thing was not a sort of interesting written thing that seems genuine or authentic to the kind of subculture post-punk skateboard world. It seems very sort of forced. Also, I want to say, like, I knew about Brain Dead. It's very not in my wheelhouse, but it also kind of reminds me of like this more like a contemporary revival of that sort of like early 2000s graphic tee world of like Crooks and Castles and like Billionaires Boys Club and stuff, where it was like these shitty shirts that they printed something on, and it was all like, it was cheap stuff and it was awful. And then within like 3 years, every single person had like a sort of streetwear printing brand. It's not interesting. It always costs way too much for the fact that it's like a Gildan t-shirt that they've screen printed some wild logo on. So like Brain Dead on its own is awful. And then to add to all this, I do not care about mountain biking. Like, I think maybe it's fine for those people who want to do it. But in terms of like any concern with cycling aesthetic of mountain biking, I'm not even going to make a comment on that.
Actually, the thing I picked up on in the sort of statement about this collection, and I might sort of be interpreting this, but the idea that like mountain biking is somehow rebellious or like nonconformist. Like, have you guys seen the prices of mountain bikes? Like, if you think road bikes are bad, an intro level mountain bike is like $4 or $5,000. At least, you know, in road you can still get something for like 2.5, 3 or something, you know. Like, it's total marketing, and it's an even worse version of like this idea that, you know, outside is free and that kind of stuff. No, mountain biking is like even more expensive than road cycling, arguably, and your bikes break and shit because you've got like, you know, suspension parts that you probably can't fix yourself, so you got to go to the mechanic and blah blah blah. So, collection aside, that really I just find that funny. It just kind of shows that this collection is just like purely marketing driven. And also, anytime I hear the word like disruptive, that is such like a, I don't know, mid 2000 like Silicon Valley word. It's like Elizabeth Holmes, you know, said she was disruptive and now she's in jail.
Well, she was pretty disruptive if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. She was. It's kind of, I don't know, like the fact that Italian Alex bought it, you know, and he's kind of like, is he a Gen Z? I guess
he's a hype beast, though.
Yeah, he's a hype beast.
Yeah, but so the fact that he bought it, I feel like as a hype beast, would he buy it if it wasn't like quote unquote kind of on trend? So, I mean, me personally, the only thing I don't really mind is the like technical trail t-shirt. Would I buy it or wear it? No, because I don't mountain bike, but like I don't mind the like weird head graphic. But then like the trail lightweight jacket and the trail maintenance pant are like just not the kind of wild designs I like. And just the fact they're selling a $200 Canadian trail maintenance pant. I assume you can maintain trails in like sweatpants or jeans or shorts. Like, that's just ridiculous. And it's super baggy, so it'd probably catch on branches and shit. Anyway, I don't know. I feel like I frequently say I want to see wilder stuff. And spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about something a bit wilder later during Into the Canal. But yeah, I'm with you guys.
I think this is the kind of stuff that Rapha has to do to remain, I'm going to say not necessarily relevant, but to remain at the forefront of discussions on cycling style, because it would be very easy for Rapha to just fall into this trap of being the brand that has solid block color jerseys with an armband, and you know, at some point it gets old pretty quickly, and people stop talking about you. So they're doing these collabs with, you know, Brain Dead, for example. Now, even though I think commercially that's probably the way to go for Rapha, I absolutely hate it. I mean, I hate everything about this collection. I hate the marketing aspect of it. I think, Warren, you highlighted the dichotomy of presenting yourself as a counterculture brand while selling $269 hoodies. But to me, the whole messaging of wanting to overthrow the established order, this is everything I stand against. I mean, this is against everything I stand for. I'm for the established order, and this is what I like about road cycling, is that it is a very sort of constant thing through time. It's a sport that's obsessed with its own history, that wants to stay the same, and that's what I stand for, essentially. So to me, this kind of revolutionary approach to mountain bike and to cycling in general, I don't really like it. So it doesn't really speak to me. As far as brain dead itself, it's a little bit outside of my world. So I can't really comment on it. But yeah, I do think it's the kind of thing that Rapha needs to be doing, even though I personally don't like it.
The statement about the sort of subversive disruptiveness of mountain biking is that same kind of crap that the snowboarders were doing. I mean, all the way back in the 80s, right? Where it's like they're, especially when they weren't allowed on the mountain and the skiers and stuff, but it was still these rich kids who could afford to go to Aspen or live in Aspen and buy lift tickets and do all this stuff. They just happened to be snowboarding instead of skiing. And they weren't sort of truly, when you kind of think of the true sort of punk culture of the sort of Lower East Side street kids and stuff. So it's always kind of bullshit. And that's something I just want to say sort of unequivocally, no matter what people think and want to think about it. Cycling is not a subversive sport. It's a niche sport for sure, but it's an expensive sport. It's an elitist sport. You can dress like you're a bike messenger from 2004, but you still got a $6,000 bike. You're still spending money most people can't spend. For a lot of us, I think it's worth it. It's something that I've come to love, and it's a great passion. But do not try and act like this is sort of the everyman's thing, that you're sort of breaking any rules.
And it's a very traditional sport as well, I guess, is the point I was getting to. As you say, Tony, it's not a subversive sport. It's very expensive. It's not necessarily for the masses, but it is also a very traditional sport in that it loves its own tradition. It doesn't like to change too much. It's a very conservative sport in and of itself.
I think some of maybe where the subversive idea comes from a cyclist is because of some of the conflicts you sometimes run into with drivers. So people think because drivers don't like you on the road, it's somehow subversive to be riding a bike, but it's not at all. As you guys said, like, it's riding this expensive stuff isn't subversive in any way. And that's okay. Like, you don't need to be subversive in all avenues of life and how you exercise and whatever. So yeah, but I think maybe that's partly where that mindset comes from, especially in road cycling, is you feel, if you get sworn at by a driver or something like that, you somehow feel like you're, breaking the rules, but you're not.
Well, you're running stop signs and red lights.
Well, yeah, if you're doing that,
stuff like that, you're for sure doing that. You're breaking traffic laws. But in terms of sort of like, when I think of sort of subversiveness of the 90s hip hop scene, maybe 80s hip hop scene coming out of Brooklyn, no record label wants them. It came very sort of organically from the street. Not a lot of financial backing and stuff. Like, that's what I think of subversive. When someone says I'm disruptive and subversive, right?
Yeah.
Not, massive corporations with tons of money, or, I'm not excluding myself from being well off to be able to afford the cycling stuff, but sort of well off people, urban people buying wildly overpriced bikes and kit. Like, it doesn't fit that term for me.
I think that's a great point, Warren. Getting into fights with drivers does not make you counterculture or subversive.
No. Drivers get in fights with each other too. It doesn't make them counterculture,
Next release recently that made the rounds in the world of cycling social media was a new jersey, new kit by the British, I think mostly cyclocross team. Warren, correct me if I'm wrong.
They also race road and mountain bike, but their more prominent riders have been in cyclocross. So
road and mountain, but mostly cyclocross. Trinity Racing, which is a British team, which I believe had Tom Pidcock at some point. So they released their kit. They teamed up with Specialized for this kit, so it's not purely them. I think Specialized is the maker of the kit. So how am I going to describe this? Seems to be inspired by, I guess, a fuzzy looking TV set where it's got white and black check, but the way they put it on the photos, they sort of call it chaos because they made the photo a little bit blurry, so it creates various optical illusions. So it's got that white and black check, but with various curves and blurs into it. And it says Trinity Racing in bold, sans serif italics letter in fluorescent yellow on the chest. There's the Specialized logo. There's the SRAM logo, which I'm not sure I'd want to wear that on a kit. But that's it. I mean, new kit that came out. I'll reserve my take for later, but maybe guys, what did you think about it?
As a team kit, I like it for reasons we often talk about, that it stands out and is different from other team kits, both on the road. I don't, to be honest, know anything about their road program or who rides for them. Like, I found out about the team through Tom Pidcock and cyclocross, and I didn't even really follow his road racing when he was on Trinity. And they also have another rider, Cameron Mason, who's British, who's, I believe he just won the British title in cyclocross. So that's, I don't really know how much you're going to see them on the road. I'm not sure. In terms of the actual design, this weird checkerboard look is at least an improvement over the similarly checkerboard fueled cycling or Café du Cycliste gravel team kit that was out last year that I think we talked about and panned because it looked like a ska design or something from the 90s. I think I want to say I like it, but I also want to say that I feel like whoever designed this is hoping that anyone who looks at this kit doesn't know who Max Headroom is. And for our younger listeners out there, Max Headroom I think still exists, this like fictional TV character born in the UK, and he's like this AI computer generated character on this like funky background, and the background is exactly like the kit. It's not checkerboard, but it's cross lines of all these different colors. So I think whoever designed this was just ripped this off of Max Headroom, is banking on most people being too young to remember that. And so I think a lot of the people who are like really loving this kit probably don't know who Max Headroom is.
Well, I was going to say, first off, I was going to make the Max Headroom comment as well. But also, I don't know why you're saying like don't know. Like that's millennials love nostalgia, and it sort of harkens back. And there's nothing wrong with inspiration in design and art. I mean, not even inspiration, stealing's the best, right? I think Picasso said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." I think he was known to steal. Yeah, I love the kit from a professional team's standpoint, or not from a. Like, I don't know if I'd want to really, maybe actually this is almost one I could see someone sort of wearing on the road. I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't match the bibs, like they didn't go for the full thing. But considering they didn't, I do like what they did with the bibs, being that black and sort of the white block letter, which kind of reminds me of that sort of like the like Eddie Merckx Maltini days, like that kind of style of 70s, which they often did that with. I think it's great, but I think also more importantly, and I don't know if they've capitalized on this, and I think other brands need to. We recently got a DM talking about how, no go to wear pro team kit out on the road as a recreational cyclist, and how that sort of takes away from maybe a financial boon for the pro teams and UCI in general and stuff. And he was kind of comparing it to other bigger professional sports where you see people wearing basketball jerseys, football jerseys, hockey jerseys, things like that, right? And then that's revenue for the team, that's revenue for the league that we don't have. And now I kind of disagree with him because if you saw someone pull up to the local rink or basketball court in like full team kit, like someone was dressed like, LeBron with the shorts and everything, like that's goofy. So maybe like I would say most people still don't kind of wear that. So I'm still obviously very against pro team as like a recreational cyclist. But what I would say they've done well, obviously, because it's partly repping your city and stuff, is the off sport sort of repping the thing. And I think that this design would be great, especially for those brain dead fans and stuff, to be hats, caps, like, not cycling caps, but like a 6-panel hat, t-shirts, hoodies, those kind of things. So I think that there's like, the design is great for the team, but then there's a lot, because it is kind of a funky, cool design. It's an aesthetic that's sort of working right now with like a 90s vibe. It would work really well to sort of like generate some revenue by selling, off race, off bike t-shirts, hoodies, hats, things like that have this sort of design. I mean, please keep the SRAM logo off those things. Maybe focus on the Trinity and the Max Headroom sort of background. But I think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so negative tonight, guys. I have nothing good to say about the stuff that's coming out. I don't like the design. I feel like that you call it checkerboard, Warren, but that sort of psychedelic checkerboard, like it just
Moody
reminds me
poster.
of like 13-year-old emo girl kind of and boy that are kind of into skateboard but with very skinny pants, looking a little bit like Avril Lavigne when she was very popular. Like that's just the aesthetic that it evokes, and I really don't like that overall. I know that's a very random comment, but that's what came
It's
to
also
mind.
completely wrong.
Maybe
That's not
I
emo
just
girl look at all. The like fluorescent. I
yeah, I
mean,
find that this is 2006 emo girl look.
no, this is
And
I don't think so.
1994 BMX look.
okay, maybe I don't like it. That's all I got to say. I
Fair
really
enough.
don't like it. On your take, Tony, I was interested though the commercial aspect of what you said, and that's a long-standing passion of mine, trying to make pro cycling more profitable and more commercially viable. You say there's an opportunity for off race, off ride apparel there. Yeah, I kind of agree with that idea. However, it would just put them in competition with other brands that have actually very good off race, off cycling apparel. The likes of, I don't know, Albion, Map, Panorama, the big brands, the main brands out there. It's just at the end of the day, like if you got to choose between team off race and between brand off race, what are you going to go for? Generally speaking, I would say that the brands do it a little bit better than the teams, and so they might end up winning that battle. But yeah, it's a decent idea. Our last item that we're going to discuss in new releases is from Warren's favorite bicycle brand, Trek. So Trek is known for their Project One kind of custom paint service that allows buyers to customize their paint job to essentially whatever they like, and Trek will do that paint job for them. And you can do that, I think, on their different ranges, their different models of road bikes. There's the Madone, the Doman, the Emonda. They're doing it on e-bikes now as well, which kind of tells you where the market is going. But essentially, what's new about this? So, the Project One is definitely not new; it's been around for a while. But what's new here is they released some new kind of paint jobs that you can choose from, and essentially, what it is, it's tie dye. So, that kind of is tie dye 1970s guys or 1990s? I can't remember. But anyway,
Both.
we all know what tie dye is. I have tie dye bidon or bottles. Tie-dye had a bit of a moment, I think, around 2018, 2019. So I'm surprised that Trek is coming out with that right now in 2023. It's like they're waking up to the tie-dye trend, which again was big maybe 5 years ago. But yeah, that's what they've done. Very colorful stuff. I guess one thing that is awfully offensive to me is the shape of one of the Aero Trek bikes. I'm not super up to speed on the Trek range at this point, so I don't know if this is the Imelda or the Madone, but they have one of their Aero bikes that where the seat stays. So you know how we go on about seat stays, how it's better when they're not dropped. In this case, it's not even like they're dropped. It's like there's an indentation in the place where the seat stays meet
Yeah,
the
it's a speed hole.
seat post. Like there's an indentation triangle in there, which honestly, I'm not even sure what that does from a scientific standpoint, but what it does is it looks hella ugly. And yeah, on the tie-dye paint job by Trek, I don't think Trek's been doing great as far as bicycle design in terms of how they look. I don't know, maybe they ride fast. I haven't tried them, but I just don't think that they've been doing great on that front. And yeah, I mean the tie-dye, I like tie-dye personally, but I'm just surprised that they're coming out with it now when it was blowing up like 5 years ago.
Honestly, who gives a shit about whatever the paint job of every single one of the bikes on that they're sort of showing this with are so ugly, like the frames. Like you just mentioned that aero bike again. I don't really keep up on the Trek line, which is sort of like it's like a split seat tube is split into two, and then the seat stay goes through, and then even the ones again, I'm not even going to look up what they're called. Even the ones that are like have a slightly more classical shape with the proper seat stays, they have these like curved top tubes, and like just like everything Trek makes is
Why?
so
Why?
ugly that like I don't give a shit. I don't care what they paint it, right? Because there's nothing that they can paint it wild colors, neutral earth tones, whatever, that will make those frames look even semi decent and worth purchasing. Like it's just I'm sort of amazed. I don't actually think I feel like I know anyone who owns a Trek that isn't Alex's retro US Postal, but it's like I'm amazed anyone buys these bikes considering bikes are all relatively the same quality at the same if they're the same price point. Like I just couldn't see myself looking at these bikes and being like, that's the one I need, right? Like it's just there's just awful looking frames.
I mean, I think it's dentist culture partially. I think in that dentist kind of subculture, there's that lust for a Cervelo or a Trek that exists. We're not really plugged into that culture, so we can't really speak to it. But I would think that's who is buying this.
Yeah, it's probably a legacy customer who've just had Trek for the longest time and they keep buying them for whatever reason. I was going to say I was going to give some advice to Trek and, spend some less time thinking about your paint jobs and like spend more time redesigning your bikes, because even when they release new bike models, they all somehow they look kind of different, but they still look the same and they still look really ugly. I think we actually talked about that whole on the seat stays last year, to be honest, but I think we all probably just blocked it out of our memory because it's so ugly. Or maybe we didn't. I don't know. It sucks. I don't think anyone likes it. Who cares about the aero benefits? But yeah, I kind of admire their commitment to staying with the gigantic logos on the down tube. But beyond that, like, yeah, they just need to. They're due for a total complete redo of everything.
They need to hire whatever boomer marketing company did Braindead's advertisement and get them in there to do a full strategy consultant rebrand.
These paint jobs are disruptive, Tony.
Guys, we've been very negative tonight. I noticed. Maybe this is it's mid-February, it's been winter and dark in Canada, so maybe it's our mood. But I guess the alternative hypothesis I would ask you to chime in on, are we in, I guess, what's the opposite of a golden age? Like, are we in a slump for cycling fashion and bicycle design at this point of the human evolution?
I would say in terms of bike design from major manufacturers, yeah, yes, there are still a lot of smaller frame builders out there that I think are still making nice looking
I
bikes.
know, but I mean the mainstream, because I think we all agree that like smaller frame builders, smaller companies that might be making steel bikes or titanium bikes, like, and we do talk about that. We cover that a lot on the show, and we've been very positive about that. But today, I guess we kept it to the big brands, right? We talked about, what did we talk about today? We talked about Rapha, we talked about EF, we talked about Trek paint jobs. Okay, Trinity is admittedly a smaller team. I didn't like it either, but their kit was made by Specialized, so not exactly a small company or anything. Let's talk about the big guys out there. Like, are we in a slump at the moment?
The problem is that we're not like we're in the slump with the big guys, and maybe we talk too much about them. We've got to try and like bring up our news, but like there's still a lot of sort of smaller frame builders all the way down to like individual independent and smaller companies, Fesca and stuff like that are still doing some like cool, nice stuff with a little bit more nod to the heritage, not going as kind of like ugly. So like there's still a lot of option for good things. In terms of kit, I'm wondering, because I still like sort of neutral earth tones, but part of me feels like it's just kind of gone on a little too long. Like I don't think I'd ever like get rid of those pieces, but I think there is a little slump in like the kit market. But I think in bike frames, it's just more that the big guys went too heavy on tech, right? And the aero bike, the weird stems, everything, like it just went too much. And I mean, like I said, there's the dentist culture. There's a few racers who really feel they need it or something. But in general, I think a lot of us, even people, committed to their off-season training and their, weighing themselves, make sure they're not too heavy. still kind of understand that you're an amateur and you don't need to save 3 watts at 45K an hour over 100 kilometers or whatever, right? Like you can get a bike that like is a little bit nicer. Like you don't need to have this sort of awful looking thing for your Saturday group ride.
I don't know if Slump, but definitely in a plateau for kit brands. I think, but to Tony's point, I think we get messages asking us to talk about smaller brands. And I think, yeah, for kit especially, we need to just start talking about a lot of the smaller brands out there, because there are brands that are out of the mainstream that are necessarily just doing earth tones, or they're doing earth tones in a more interesting way. And maybe it's just more we need to shine a light on more of those brands.
But I feel like it's like they've got to kind of split where it's like the kit maybe has to move for a little more exciting, and then the bike brands have to calm down, right? Like the bike brands, like, I mean, paint scheme, what, like, that's another thing. Like, okay, we talked about how ugly those frames are, but like a tie-dye bike, are you going to run a ride that in 5 years? You know, warning to my Camillien, I'm going to talk about reselling expensive bikes, but my Canal. It's like, that thing's kind of a waste and it's ugly. So it's like kit brands maybe need to sort of jump up a little bit, and then bike brands need to like calm down, get a little more traditional.
Yeah, I think it maybe has to do with on our interview with David Miller and James Carnes recently, they were talking about how during the pandemic, the demand for outdoors equipment, specifically cycling, boomed. And at the same time, brands didn't have stock, didn't have parts, supply chains were broken. So no one really did anything new. And I feel like, as you say, Tony, the bike brands just kind of were already on this path towards more tech, looking like a tech bike, having a weird seat post, having a weird stem, claiming that it saves you half a watt over 100 kilometers. So I just feel like they went deeper into this, which for us as a podcast that's mostly focused on aesthetics, not exactly our wheelhouse. So we're bound to be more negative on that. Now, I'm sure that the dentist subculture appreciates this half a watt saving over 100 kilometers, but it's not really our department here on Cycling Fashion Week. Okay, our next segment is the return of Into the Canal, where we throw something that we don't like from the world of cycling or cycling fashion into Montreal's Lachine Canal. And actually, I have an announcement with respect to Into the Canal. We are now going to be accepting listener submissions for Into the Canal, or if you want to do a Camillien as well, which is the opposite of a canal, if you want to give a shout out to something that you like from the world of cycling or cycling fashion, that's called a Camillien, named after the hardest hill in the world. So yeah, please submit your canals and your Camilliens. You can send them to us by DM on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week, or alternatively, you can send us an email, cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing what our astute listeners have to throw into the canal. I am going to start this week, guys. I have both a Canal and a Camillien. My Canal this week is cheap pumps. So bicycle pumps. And I'm talking about the ones, how do you call them in English? Like foot pumps, like the ones that not the ones that you put in your back pocket.
Floor pump.
Floor pumps. There you go. Not foot pumps, floor pumps. So, floor pumps, kind of an essential item for any cyclist to put air in your tires. But I have found in my career as a cyclist that the cheap ones are horrible. And I am going to throw one in the canal. I hold it in my hands right now as we speak. It is a Blackburn Grid 1 floor pump. It is awful. It doesn't actually stay on the valve, so you need to hold it on the valve with one hand while you pump with the other hand. You get cridbro jacked just from pumping with one arm because it's so hard to do while you're holding the valve with the other hand. Actually, that's kind of a positive if you're getting cridbro jacked, but ultimately I don't seek to get cridbro jacked from a pump. I seek convenience. I seek something that's easy. So, floor pumps, cheap floor pumps such as this Blackburn Grid 1, that's solidly into the canal. That thing was a waste of money. Even though it sounded like less money on the spot, it turned out to be a horrible decision, and I'm probably going to have to replace it. Now, I am going to give a Camillien, though, to the Park Tool pump. And full disclosure, Park Tool does not sponsor this podcast. They didn't send us anything. I bought this pump with my own money because I needed one for my house where I have a bike there. And I bought it. It's a blue pump, something like $70 Canadian. So, expensive, but not that expensive because there's way more expensive ones. But Park Tool, as always, just high quality stuff. Anything that Park Tool makes, I have found in general is extremely high quality, extremely solid. I find that they make very good products. And more often than not, when I go see my mechanic for something with my bike, I notice that they are working with Park Tool stuff in the shop in the back, which speaks for itself if the pro mechanics are using it. So in the Canal, cheap pumps, Camillien Park Tool pump.
I'll go next, and I'm going to do something slightly different this time in that I'm doing a Camillien, but in the form of an actual like kit review, sort of. I mean, I'm not, this isn't RIP cycling tips like tech review where I'm going to write like, or say 3,000 words on kit, but I do want to give a Camillien to a recent kit release from Attaquer that I've also been trying out the last couple weeks, month. So the Camillien is for the overall general spotted gum capsule collection from Attaquer. They were kind enough to send us the media release on it, so it describes it a bit, which says, close to home, this collection is inspired by the rich colors and textures of the spotted gum tree, endemic to the native bushland we're lucky enough to call our own backyard. And then there's some stuff about which products it's featured on. But basically, the design is sort of this like mosaic leaf-like pattern. We definitely got some DMs on Instagram when it was released, people asking us about it, and we kind of referenced once before, there were some negative comments on Attaquer's Instagram saying it was like horribly ugly, that kind of thing. We'll post photos of the kit on our Instagram. I went for the men's race jersey, the spotted gum with the just the race bibs. And I should also say I bought the kit with my own money. So, I really like the kit both aesthetically, which the jersey I got has the design on the sleeves and then sort of a beige-ish or off-white core body. And then the bibs are full-on pattern, which I really like because to be honest, mostly just have solid color bibs. So that was part of the reason I bought this, is I wanted to just have kind of a kit option for doing some peacocking if I get crit bro jacked enough to ride a crit or go on the fast group rides this summer. And then they also have a race long sleeve jersey that the full body of the jersey is the pattern and block color sleeves. Anyway, and the designs are the same for men and women. The one thing in the collection I don't really like is the Race Ultra Plus Climbers jersey, which has this like green mesh fabric mixed with a pattern. Doesn't really do it for me, but the rest of the collection I really like. And in terms of performance, the kit has been really, really good. The bibs are super comfortable. I think we've talked about it before. I got a pair of Race Ultra Plus bibs from Attaquer last year that are like my favorite bibs now. They surpassed, I think I used to think La Passion bibs were the best comfort-wise, but yeah, Attaquer bibs in general, I think, are probably my favorite bibs now, just both in terms of comfort, material. They feel super light on the skin. They're great in hot weather, good in cold too. And the jersey, I don't know, these days it's kind of hard to go wrong with the jersey. The jersey's great, but yeah, basically I'm giving a Camillien to this entire collection, but specifically the kit that I bought. And this is my first go at an actual kit review, but
You did a great job.
the kit performs really well. And I really like the look. It's different. This is headed in the direction of kind of a bit of a more out there design that I personally appreciate and want to see more of.
I like the kit design, and I think Attaquer right now is on the top of my my kit brand list. Fluctuates, depending on releases and maybe what I wore that day. But Attaquer seems to always really come in with, besides the style, and I think we talked about this in our interview with them, like their quality is sort of surprisingly good because they seem so focused on style. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm sure the quality is great, and I when I saw that release, I thought that's a fun release, right? That's a fun kit to have. As we know, Warren's built out, the standards we talk about, Warren's built out his kit with more simple stuff like we all think you should start with, just to make sure you have the kind of basics down. But now that Warren's got, quite extensive collections, start getting a little wild, start getting a little fun. So I don't have it. I didn't buy it, but I'm with you on it.
Okay, Tony, what do you got in the Canal this week?
So I do have a Canal. I'm going to be negative, and I'm not going to do a Camillien either side of this. Is all pure Canal. Mine is people selling extremely expensive bike on the used market. Like, I'm talking people who sell like a $12,000 bike, and then they discount it to like 500 or something, $10,000. And I'm just thinking to myself, like the seller can do whatever the hell they want. They can ask what they want and no one can get it. But just like, who would buy that? Like, I don't understand. Like, I always feel like if you have 10,000 for a bike, you have 12,000 for a bike. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this kind of like, oh, I'm scraping at my budget here to get kind of the best I can get. Like, if you're willing to spend 10,000, that means you have money. You have money and could probably spend 12,000. And why would you buy used that has no warranty, doesn't come from a shop that will, likely do tune-ups and repairs for a discount or for free for a while? A lot of this stuff is carbon. You can't guarantee it wasn't crashed. You can't guarantee it's not cracked internally that causes issue, because sometimes there can be problems that aren't aesthetically sort of things. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then even if for some reason you say, okay, I have 10,000 flat, I don't have 12,000, I can't find the extra 2,000, all I've got is 10,000 for this bike. You can get such a high-end bike for $10,000 that, like, do you think that bike you buy used for the extra 2,000 is going to like make the difference? And I mean, I hope I'm not being like, people aren't going to be yelling at their phones or wherever they listen, being like, resale's better for the environment. And I sort of agree with that. I'd like to see resale, but just at that price point, it just like makes no sense. Like, I wouldn't like if I had $10,000 for a bike, I'm not buying a used bike. I'm just not doing it.
But in terms of resale, Tony, like, if you bought a $12,000 bike to begin with, why the hell are you selling it? You know what I mean? Like, obviously there might be like financial considerations or something like that, but like, if I'm spending that kind of money on a bike, that's a bike I want for basically to ride into the ground until the frame is like done.
So guys, I see this a lot on the resale Facebook pages, and especially the Montreal one that I kind of track. I'm not interested in buying anything really, but I kind of track just to see what prices people are asking for, just to get a feel for the market. And we've talked about the market recently. I think the market's been in free fall. The demand has really gone away. But anyway, I digress. I think what this is essentially people who don't fall in love with any bike, but what they do is they want a new bike every year. They want the newest tech, the newest look. They want the newest matte black Cervelo every year. And so what they do is they essentially get a new one during the winter or in the spring, then they ride it a few thousand kilometers in the summer. Then at the end of the summer, they sell it, take a little bit of depreciation, but essentially get, most of what they paid back. And so just for maybe a couple of $1,000 a year or $1,000 a year, they get to ride a new bike every year. That I've noted the people that sell these bikes on these websites, it's always the same people. And that tells me that they are the kinds of people who want to ride a new bike every year.
Who's buying those bikes? Like who's spending? There was a guy recently on the Toronto buy and sell Facebook group for road bikes selling a number 22 with lightweight wheels for like 12 grand or something, which, probably a reasonable price for that. But it just, who's seeing that and be like, oh, I can save 2-3 grand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how much is a new one? Like, fine, you can save 2 grand, but like
at that price point, I kind of want certainty on the provenance of the bike. What's the bike's pedigree? And yeah,
I mean, that's my point, right? And again, like, I feel like when you get into that range of money, like, you should have the extra couple grand. Like, I don't think it's a smart financial decision to barely be able to afford a $12,000 bike, right? Like, when you get into those sort of realms of stuff, it's like, people who shop for really premium cars, McLarens and Ferraris, like, maybe the McLaren is a little cheaper than the Ferrari, but their decision wouldn't be saying, well, the Ferrari's, 350,000, the McLaren's 300,000. I'm buying the McLaren to save 50,000. They're buying it more out of choice, right? Like, so from a financial standpoint, I'm just telling people, if you're buying a 10 grand bike and you're barely able to afford it, don't buy the bike, buy something cheaper. And then also, I just want to ask out there, because we have a good listener base. Can someone message us if they've either sold a extremely expensive bike for only a couple thousand under retail, so like a used version, someone's actually sold one of these bikes, or if they've purchased, more importantly, if they've purchased it. If you say, yeah, there was a bike, retail MSRP was 12,000, I bought it for 9,500. I'd like to hear from you as to why you decided, why you thought that couple $1,000 savings at that high price point was worth the bike.
Okay, next segment, we rate your bike for free. Haven't done it in a little while here, so we are back in the bike rating business. This one comes to us from Matt. And again, for our listeners, you can send it to us on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week, send us a DM, or email it at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com. So this comes to us from Matt. He says, and I'm going to describe the bike, and the photos will be posted on our Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week. He says, hi guys, after the recent podcast with the reference to the best Cannondale ever, I thought I'd send you my retro bike to review. Are old bikes cool? The answer is yes, absolutely. So the email says, bit of a geek background info for you. The bike was originally built for Swiss national champ Armin Meyer, who sold it to a neighbor when he retired, where it slowly deteriorated for the next 20 years. I then fully restored it last year after buying it from a middleman. Nearly all the replacement parts are period correct, new old stock. Numerous people say it should have Spinergy wheels, which the Saeco team made very famous. There was one rider on the Saeco team who shall be unnamed, who was also famous, but the team actually stopped using them by 2001 and swapped to the Mavic Cosmics instead. The biggest difference to the many replica frames still out there is the extended head tube, which would be based on Meyer's Bike Fit. Tony knows something about extended head tubes. So he says, looking forward to hearing if old bikes can still be cool. Please don't reference my name, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want us to reference his surname, but he goes by Matt. That's all good. So what is that bike? It's a beautiful Cannondale CAD 5 with the Saeco paint job, as I mentioned, Ferrari red color with the yellow lettering. That was back in the day that Cannondale had the Cannondale lettering written kind of diagonally on the tube, but it had two Cannondales. It said Cannondale on the top, Cannondale on the bottom. It says Cannondale on the fork as well. It had those kind of white lines next to the Saeco logo on the top tube. So again, he has the Mavic Cosmic wheels. What's interesting, the Mavic Cosmics, I'm guessing they're maybe a 35 millimeter depth. It says Cosmic on it, but with the Mavic logo, but in yellow. So it goes over to match the yellow lettering of the Cannondale on the frame. And so he doesn't have tan sidewalls, but he has yellow sidewalls, which is kind of interesting given how many touches of yellow are on the bicycle. He's got a red bar tape, black stem, red seat. And yeah, that's it. Cannondale CAD 5. We believe we already referenced this as the best CAD of all time. I own one. Proud to say that I own one, not to brag. His, though, is much more period correct than mine. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. I love the CAD 5. It's just so perfect. And the fact that he went with period correct parts. And I know that collectors go wild for this stuff in the watch world. It works that way. If you've got a vintage watch, it has to have period correct parts and hands and dial. And it's the same for bikes. And this guy did it absolutely right. Matt, that is a 10 out of 10 if I've ever seen one.
I don't care about the period correct aspect, but what I appreciate is that the period correct parts aesthetically go with the bike. I give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Like, I don't think I feel like our listeners would just, if I didn't get this a 10 out of 10, they'd wonder what would get a 10 from us, because this has like all of the things I feel like we talk about. You know, it's got rim brake, the stem is slammed. I like that his water bottles are white and red, so they like go with the bike, but they don't, it's not overdoing it on the yellow. It matches the white of the Saeco logo. The seat, he's got a red and yellow seat even matching. Like he's clearly put quite a lot of thought into this. Like if somebody rolled up to a group ride that I was on this bike, like I'd probably annoy the hell out of that person because I just wouldn't stop talking to them about it. And, he's even got the red pedals. I suppose your cranks could maybe be black. Maybe that would look a little better, but no, 10.
I can't do it. I can't give it a 10. There's so much right with this bike, but the little things that are wrong just like shot me in the face. So we'll talk about the good. You guys all mentioned it. Obviously, the Saeco CAD 5, Cannondale CAD 5, top frame. At least, make sure definitely top 3 frame of all time. The Cosmic, I love when those Cosmic logo. They've changed the logo quite a bit. Obviously, a lot of time has passed and style of wheels. I don't mind the yellow tan sidewalls. The red pedals stood out. Amazing. The red bar tape, I probably wouldn't take it there. I think there's enough black and white on the bike that you could have done one or the other, but I'm not going to necessarily knock it. But I'm going to say it's a 9.75 because the seat is slammed forward. It's not on the middle of the rails, which is a real no-no for me. And then the handlebars, the bottom part of the bars are not parallel with the top tube. They're slightly sort of up in a cyclocross style. So I think just turn those handlebars, and I mean, maybe the seat's too far forward because you're reaching out too much. So maybe there's a few kind of like fit issues. All the details in terms of that are amazing, with the sort of matching with the red water bottle, red bottle cages, the yellows coming in. It all looks good. But those little things, so it's a 9.75. I got to knock off 0.25 for those couple of aesthetic mistakes.
In one of the photos he sent us, it's very apparent. But the one I was actually looking at, another one on his Instagram, because there's a saddlebag, it wasn't nearly as noticeable. But now that I look at the other one that we'll probably post on Instagram against the brick wall, I think I might have to go to a 9.9 just for that. The bars don't bother me. I do think maybe you could have done yellow bar tape. That I don't know how that would have looked, but I hear you on that one. But yeah, I'll just go down to 9.9 just for the position of the saddle, because now that I see it, I can't unsee it.
What I like about this too is the story behind that bike. I like a good story, and the fact that it was in a garage. It was owned by a Swiss national champ. Then it sat in a garage where it kind of rotted for 20 years, and then he bought it, and it's all new old stock. Like, that's pretty cool. The fact that he referenced the Spinergy wheels as well, to me, tells me that he's a true connoisseur of late 90s, early 2000s bikes. And I'm going to put something out to our listeners. So we're big fans of the CAD 5 here on Cycling Fashion Week. They made a version of this bike that was painted in Giro pink for the pink jersey of the Giro. There was one rider, who shall remain unnamed, who had won the right to wear the pink jersey in the Giro, and there was a paint job of the CAD 5 that was pink. If anyone out there owns that, this must be one of the rarest things in the world of vintage bikes out there. But if anyone out there owns that, please send us your pics, because that would be an incredible thing to see. So that's it. So Tony, 9.75, Warren 9.9, and me 10 out of 10. Averages out to a pretty high score. So thank you, Matt, for your submission. And please continue to send us your bikes. We will review them on future episodes. Okay, that's it for another episode of Cycling Fashion Week. We will be back in a few weeks with more content. We actually have a special episode, slightly different format than what we've done recently. So we think you will enjoy it. We certainly had fun recording it. That's coming up in a few weeks from now. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Tony. In the meantime, go to our Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week, where we will post photos of the bike that we reviewed today and other content. You can send us DMs. Let us know what you think. Submit your bikes. We will review them. And that is another episode of Cycling Fashion Week in the books. Thank you very much.